My wife's sister just showed me receipts that prove my wife has been lying to me for 3 years. Let me back up. My name is David. I'm 42. I've been married to Sarah for 8 years. We have 2 kids. Emma is 6, Jake is 4. We live in Portland. Our life seemed normal, happy even, or at least that's what I thought. Sarah's sister is Michelle. She's 35. We've always gotten along fine. Not super close, but we see her at holidays. Last Sunday Michelle texted me. She said she needed to talk. In person. She said it was about Sarah. I met her at a coffee shop on Monday morning. I was confused about why she wouldn't just call. Michelle looked nervous. She ordered coffee and didn't touch it. Then she pulled out her phone. David, I don't know how to say this, Michelle said, but I found something, and I think you need to know. She showed me her phone. It was a screenshot of a bank statement. Not just any bank statement. It was from an account I'd never seen before. Sarah's name was on it. What am I looking at? I asked. That's an account Sarah opened in 2021, Michelle said. She asked me to help her set it up. I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. But David, there's over $180,000 in there. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. $180,000. That's not pocket change. That's not a mistake. That's planning. How do you have access to this? I asked. She added me as an emergency contact years ago. I was cleaning out my email and found the statements she's been sending to me. I didn't realize they were going to my spam folder. I've been getting them for months. Michelle showed me more screenshots. Deposits. Consistent deposits. Money going in every single month. I recognized some of it. Our tax refunds. Bonuses from work. But some of it, I didn't recognize where it came from. There's more, Michelle said quietly. She pulled up another document. It was a letter. From a lawyer. Dated 6 months ago. That's addressed to Sarah, Michelle said. It was in the spam too. I opened it because I thought it was important. David, she consulted with a divorce lawyer 6 months ago. I felt like the air got sucked out of the coffee shop. Everything went quiet. My hands were shaking. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I couldn't not, Michelle said. Because you deserve to know. Because my sister is planning something, and you're walking into it blind. I asked her to send me everything. She did. Right there at the table. Screenshots, documents, the lawyer's letter. Everything. I drove home. Sarah was at work. She works as a project manager at a tech company. She wouldn't be home until 6. I had 4 hours to think about this. 4 hours to process the fact that my wife has a secret account with $180,000. 4 hours to think about the divorce lawyer. I didn't go inside. I just sat there reading those documents over and over, trying to understand when my marriage became a lie. At 5:45, I heard her car pull into the driveway. Sarah came in like a normal Tuesday. She kissed me on the cheek. She asked how my day was. She started making dinner. Hey, I said, we need to talk. She froze, just for a second, but I saw it. About what? She asked, but her voice changed. It got tight. About the account, I said. Sarah's face went white. She turned off the stove. She didn't say anything. She just stared at me. David, she started. How long? I asked. How long have you been planning to leave me? Sarah sat down at the kitchen table. She put her head in her hands, and then she said something that made my blood run ice cold. It's not what you think, she whispered. Then what is it? She looked up at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Real fear. The money isn't for me, she said. And the lawyer? David, the lawyer isn't about us. Then who is it about? Sarah's phone buzzed. She looked at it and went even paler. Oh my God, she whispered. He knows. He knows you know. Sarah, what are you talking about? She turned her phone toward me. It was a text from an unknown number, and it said, tell him the truth or I will. You have 1 hour. I stared at that message, then I looked at my wife, and I realized that everything I thought I knew about her was wrong. I sent my boss a 12-minute voice memo that was supposed to go to my therapist, and it contained everything I actually thought about him. Let me back up. I work at a mid-size marketing firm in Denver called Bright Media. I've been there for 3 years, and my boss, Derek, is the kind of guy who makes you want to quit every single day. He's 52, acts like he invented the internet, and takes credit for literally everything his team does. But I needed the paycheck, so I just dealt with it. Last Tuesday, I was driving home after work. I had my phone set up on my dashboard, and I was using voice memos to record some thoughts about my therapy session from earlier that day. My therapist had asked me to reflect on my work stress and actually voice out what I was feeling instead of just bottling it up. So I'm driving on I-25, and I start talking. Derek is such a controlling asshole. Like he micromanages every single email I send. He takes 3-hour lunches but acts like we're lazy if we step away from our desks for 10 minutes. And that presentation on Friday? I did 90% of that work. He spent 2 days on the slides at the end, and suddenly he's the genius who landed the client. I'm so tired of it. I hate going to work. I kept going for like 12 minutes. I talked about how he'd rejected my ideas in meetings, only to suggest the exact same ideas 10 minutes later and act like he'd just had a breakthrough. I talked about how he'd promised me a promotion that never came. I even did an impression of his stupid laugh. It was cathartic as hell. When I got home, I was tired. I meant to save that memo to my personal folder where I keep my therapy stuff. But my phone was acting weird that night. I set it down, made dinner, and forgot about it. The next morning I wake up to my phone blowing up. Texts from coworkers. Some were laughing emojis. Some were just question marks. I had no idea what was happening. Then I opened Slack. Derek had sent a message in the company channel at 6 a.m. It said, please see me in my office immediately. My stomach dropped. I called my best friend Maya, who also works at the company. Dude, did you listen to the voice memo Derek got? She asked. What voice memo? What are you talking about? The one you sent him. It's been going around. Everyone's heard it. It's brutal. I felt like I was going to throw up. Maya, I didn't send Derek anything. Well, someone did, and it sounds exactly like you. You're roasting him for like 12 minutes straight. I checked my sent files. Sure enough, there it was. Sent at 11:47 p.m. the night before, to Derek's email. The voice memo with my entire unfiltered opinion of my boss, delivered directly to him. I drove to the office in complete panic mode. When I walked into Derek's office, he was sitting at his desk with his arms crossed. "Did you send this?" he asked, not even looking up. "Derek, I can explain. That was supposed to be a personal recording. It was an accident. I was driving home and I was just venting to my therapist, and somehow it got sent to you, and I'm so sorry." He looked up at me. "You hate your job that much?" "That's not the point. I was just processing some feelings and, no, actually that is the point." He stood up. "You called me an asshole, multiple times. You did an impression of my laugh. You said you hate coming to work." I didn't know what to say. He was right. I had said all of that. "Here's what's going to happen," Derek said. "You're going to go home for the day. I'm going to talk to HR, and then we're going to figure out if there's any way to move forward from this." I left. The whole office watched me walk out. I could hear people trying not to laugh. HR called me that afternoon. Turns out Derek had already talked to them. They said the memo was unprofessional, but because it was sent by accident, and because Derek hadn't explicitly asked me to keep my opinions private, which sounds dumb, I know, they weren't going to fire me. But Derek wanted me moved to a different team. So now I work under a different manager. Derek and I don't talk. And apparently that voice memo is still being shared in group chats around the office. I get recognized by people from other departments who heard it. The worst part? My therapist thought the whole thing was hilarious. She said at least now I knew I was actually expressing my real feelings. Not helpful, Doc. I found my girlfriend's wedding ring in her car, and she confessed she's been married for 3 years. Let me back up. My name is Marcus. I'm 32. I've been dating Sarah for 4 years. We met at work, hit it off, and things moved fast. Within 6 months we were living together. Within 2 years I proposed. She said yes. We set a wedding date for next June. Everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. Last Tuesday I was borrowing her car to pick up groceries. The sun was hitting the cup holder weird, and I noticed something shiny wedged under the seat. I pulled it out, and my stomach dropped. It was a gold band, an actual wedding ring, not an engagement ring, a marriage band. I just sat there in her car holding this ring. My hands were shaking. I called her at work. She didn't answer. I texted her, "We need to talk, now." She texted back a few minutes later, "What's wrong?" I didn't respond. I went home and waited. When she walked in at 6 p.m., she took one look at my face and knew. I held up the ring. "Where did you get that?" she said. Not a question, a statement. "It was in your car, under the seat. Sarah, what the hell is this?" She walked to the kitchen and sat down. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just sat there like she was about to tell me she forgot to buy milk. "I'm married," she said. "I have been for 3 years. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe right. I just kept looking at her like she was a stranger." "How?" I said. "How are you married? To who? When?" "His name is David. We got married in Vegas. It was 3 years ago, before you and I got serious." "Before we got serious? Sarah, we've been together 4 years. We live together. I gave you a ring. I'm planning a wedding. How did you not tell me this?" She finally looked at me. Because I was going to get a divorce. I was waiting for the right time. The right time? The right time would have been literally any moment in the past 4 years. When we moved in, when I proposed. Now would have been great. "Sarah, this is insane." "I know. Do you? Do you actually know? Because you don't seem like you know. You seem calm. You seem like you're telling me you forgot to pay a bill." She stood up. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I am, but I can explain." Explain what? That you're a liar? That you've been lying to my face for 4 years? That you let me buy a ring and plan a wedding while you were still married to someone else? It's not that simple. It is that simple. It's exactly that simple. You're married, you lied. I want to know everything. Who is David? Where is he? Does he know about me? She didn't answer right away. That's when I knew it was worse. "He knows," she finally said. "He's known the whole time." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. "What do you mean he's known? How does he know?" Because she said, "He's my brother." I stared at her. I thought I misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "We got married on paper, for health insurance. He didn't have coverage, and he was sick. Pancreatic cancer. We got married so I could add him to my plan. It was supposed to be temporary, just until his treatments were covered, and he got better. But then he got sicker, and then he died. 2 years ago. And I never filed the divorce paperwork. I kept putting it off. And then you and I got serious, and I didn't know how to tell you without explaining the whole thing and looking crazy." I sat down. "You married your brother, for insurance, and then he died, and you never divorced him, and you got engaged to me while still being married to him." "Yes, Sarah, that's fraud. That's insurance fraud. That's marriage fraud. I know. Did you know when you said yes to my proposal?" She didn't answer. I called a lawyer that night. The paperwork she filed showed they were married legally. The insurance claim was fraudulent. She could face charges. I had to report it. I didn't want to, but I couldn't marry someone who committed fraud. I couldn't build a life on that. She got a lawyer. The case is still moving. The insurance company is investigating. She might face charges. She might not. Either way, we're done. She's living with her mom now. She called me last week, asking if we could talk. I didn't pick up. My in-laws showed up at my house and told me I had to give them my daughter's college fund because their son deserved it more. Let me back up. I'm Sarah, I'm 42, and I've been married to Tom for 16 years. We have one daughter, Emma, who's 16. When Emma was born, my parents gave us $10,000 and told us to start a college fund. My husband agreed it was a good idea. Over the years, we added to it, and by the time Emma turned 16, that fund had grown to about $85,000. It was in her name, in a trust that she'd get access to when she turned 18. Tom's family was never great with money. His brother David was always broke. He had 3 kids, went through a divorce, and basically lived paycheck to paycheck. His parents, Carol and Frank, were retired and on a fixed income. They were fine, but not wealthy. One Saturday afternoon, Carol and Frank just showed up at our door. No warning, no phone call. Tom was at work, so it was just me and Emma. Carol walked in like she owned the place. She didn't even say hello. She just sat down on my couch and said, "We need to talk about Emma's college fund." I was confused. "Okay, what about it?" Frank jumped in. "David's oldest son needs to go to college. He got into a good school, but they can't afford it. We think Emma should give up some of that money to help him." I literally laughed. I thought they were joking. Carol's face got red. "This is serious, Sarah. Family takes care of family." "That fund is for Emma's college," I said. "It's been in her name since she was a baby." "Emma's smart. She'll get scholarships," Carol said. "David's son isn't as bright. He needs the help more." I stood up. "No, absolutely not. That's Emma's money. We saved it for her future." Frank leaned forward. "You're being selfish. You have a good job. You can pay for Emma's college yourself. David can't even feed his kids some months." Emma was upstairs, but she came down because she heard raised voices. She asked what was going on. Carol actually had the nerve to look at Emma and say, "Honey, your family needs your help. We're asking you to be generous and give some of your college fund to your cousin." Emma looked at me, then at them. She said, "That's my money. You're asking me to give up my future so my cousin can go to a nice school? That's not fair." Carol stood up and pointed at Emma. "You're selfish, just like your mother. This is why Tom married you. You don't understand family." I lost it. "Get out, both of you, now." "You're making a huge mistake," Frank said as they left. I called Tom at work. I told him everything. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "My parents are crazy. I'm sorry." But that wasn't the end. Carol started texting Tom constantly. She said I was keeping him from his family. She said I was a gold digger who wanted to keep all the money for myself. She told relatives I was stealing from the family. She made up stories about me. Tom finally had enough. He called his parents and told them he wouldn't talk to them until they apologized. They refused. They said he was choosing me over family. Tom hasn't spoken to his parents in 2 years now. His brother David called once, asking for money, and Tom said no. Carol sent Emma a birthday card last year with a check for $50 and a note that said, "I hope you'll remember how much your family cares about you." Emma donated it to a local food bank. The college fund is still there. Emma's going to Northwestern next fall on a full academic scholarship anyway. Carol doesn't know that yet. I'm sure when she finds out, she'll try to take credit for it somehow. My boss made a new rule. Every single expense had to be photographed and logged or he wouldn't reimburse us. 6 months later, I handed all those photos to the IRS and watched his empire burn. Let me back up. I worked at Mitchell's Marketing Group, a mid-size agency with about 40 people. The owner was Derek Mitchell, 52 years old, and he was the kind of guy who made you question why he even hired humans. He was paranoid about money, always talking about how his employees were stealing from him, how everyone was a liar, how he built this company from nothing. In January, Derek called an all-hands meeting. He was standing in front of everyone with this smug look on his face. "Effective immediately," he said. "No more blank expense reports. I want photos, receipts, dates, times, everything. If I don't see proof, you don't get paid back." I've been losing thousands every month to fraud, and it stops now. Someone asked, "What about gas? Do we photograph every pump?" "Yes," Derek said, "every single one." It was absurd, but we did it. I started taking pictures of everything. Gas receipts, lunch with clients, parking tickets while doing his work, hotel stays on business trips. I was photographing receipts like a maniac, logging everything into a spreadsheet with timestamps and locations. Here's the thing about Derek. He was paranoid about us, but he was careless about himself. We all worked in an open office. His desk was near the kitchen. And Derek, in all his paranoia about employee theft, never thought anyone would pay attention to what he was doing. I started noticing patterns. Derek would expense personal things. A lot of them. There was the time he expensed a weekend at the Ritz-Carlton in Miami as a client entertainment event. No client went. I knew because I handled his calendar. There was the time he expensed his wife's birthday dinner at an expensive restaurant as a business meal. His wife, not a client. There was the car lease he was writing off as a company vehicle, but he drove it home every single night, took his kids to soccer practice in it, went grocery shopping on it. And the golf club membership. Thousands of dollars, marked down as client relations. But here's what really got me. I found out Derek was running a second business on the side, a real estate investment thing, and he was using company resources to run it. Company internet, company phone, company office space after hours. I saw invoices, I saw contracts, I saw emails. And then there were the cash expenses. Derek would tell the accounting department that he spent $200, $300 on client dinners, and just never provide receipts. He'd say they got lost. But he'd still get reimbursed because he was the owner. Meanwhile, the rest of us were getting denied reimbursements because our receipt photos were blurry, or we forgot to write down the time. I kept copies of everything. Every photo I took, every receipt. And I started keeping detailed notes about Derek's expenses too. Times I saw him submitting false claims, dates he used company resources for his side business. In July, Derek fired my coworker Marcus, because Marcus's receipt for a client lunch didn't have a timestamp clear enough. Derek said he couldn't verify it was actually a business meal. Marcus lost $400. I decided right then, I was done. I called the IRS office in my state and asked about reporting tax fraud. They sent me a form. I filled it out with everything. Every suspicious expense. Every personal item Derek had written off. Every instance of him using company resources for his side business. I included copies of the photos Derek had demanded we all take. Photos of his golf membership bill. Screenshots of his side business emails sent from his company account. I also reported it to the state labor board and the business licensing office. Then I got a lawyer and reported it to our company's board of directors. It took 3 months. First, the IRS sent Derek a notice, then an audit letter. Then they started digging into his personal taxes. The state labor board launched an investigation into wage and hour violations. Turns out Derek had been making people work off the clock too. The business licensing office revoked his real estate license for operating an unlicensed business. In November, Derek called another all-hands meeting. He looked destroyed. His face was gray. "I'm closing the company," he said. "Effective immediately. Everyone's final checks will be mailed to you. No explanation, no goodbye." Later, I found out the IRS hit him with back taxes, penalties, and interest, over $120,000. The state labor board fined the company another $50,000. His real estate side business got shut down, and he had to pay out severance to people like Marcus, who'd been wrongly denied reimbursements. I heard through the grapevine that Derek ended up filing for bankruptcy. His house went into foreclosure, all because he demanded receipts. The beautiful part is that I never had to do anything illegal. I just used the system he created against him. He asked for documentation. I gave it to him. Then I gave it to people who actually cared about the law. He destroyed himself. I just made sure the right people knew about it. My father-in-law embezzled $180,000 from our family business and then tried to frame me for it. Let me back up. My wife Sarah and I started a small marketing firm 8 years ago. It was just the two of us at first, but we grew fast. By year 5, we had 12 employees and we were pulling in solid money. Sarah's dad, Richard, was a retired accountant. When we asked him to handle our books part-time, he seemed perfect for it. He was family. We trusted him. Big mistake. One day in March, our accountant called. "We need to talk about some irregular transfers," she said. My stomach dropped. Turns out Richard had been moving money into accounts we didn't even know existed. Over 3 years, he'd stolen $180,000. Not in small chunks either. Big pulls. 10,000 here, 15,000 there. He'd covered his tracks using fake invoices and shell companies. When we confronted him, he didn't even deny it at first. He just sat there in our office with his arms crossed. "I needed help," he finally said. "You two were doing so well. I have debts. It's not like you'd miss it." Sarah's face went white. "Dad, are you serious right now?" "I was going to pay it back," he said, eventually. Then he did something worse. He told us if we reported him to the police, he'd claim Sarah had forged his signature on the documents. He'd say she set him up to steal from her own parents. He had nothing to lose. He was already guilty. But Sarah had everything to lose. Our business reputation, her relationship with her mom, everything. "You won't report this," he said, standing up, "because your mother will believe me, and I'll make sure this destroys you both." That's when something clicked in me. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about control. He was using our love for Sarah's mom as a weapon, and he was banking on us being too scared to fight back. I didn't argue with him. I just smiled and said, "Okay, Richard." Then I went to work. I spent 2 weeks gathering everything. Every email, every bank statement, every forged invoice. I created a timeline with dates and amounts. I documented everything he'd done. Then I hired a forensic accountant to verify it all. Cost me $8,000, but it was worth it. Here's where it gets good. Richard had been a board member at his country club for 15 years. He was also the treasurer for his church's building fund. He'd raised over $400,000 for that fund over the years. Respected guy, or so everyone thought. I contacted the church first. I sent them all the documentation about Richard's theft from our business. I included a note explaining that if he could steal from his own daughter, maybe they should audit his work with their fund. They did. Turns out Richard had been skimming from the church too. Not much, maybe $8,000 total. The country club started asking questions after that. They found out he'd been falsifying expense reports for years. Another $12,000. But I wasn't done. I sent copies of everything to his state's accounting board. You need a license to call yourself an accountant. Richard lost his within 2 months. Then I sent the information to the police. Not just about us, about everything. The church, the country club, all of it. Richard was arrested on a Friday in May. The charges were fraud, embezzlement, and theft. He took a plea deal and did 14 months in federal prison. When he got out, he was a registered offender. No one would hire him. His wife left him. His friends from the country club stopped returning his calls. Sarah's mom was devastated at first, but she understood. Her husband had stolen from her daughter, from a church, from people who trusted him. She chose Sarah. The money? We got most of it back through restitution. Not all, but most. Richard tried to contact Sarah once after he got out. She didn't answer. He tried again. She blocked him. Last I heard, he was living with his sister in another state, working at a hardware store, for minimum wage. He threatened to destroy us. Instead, he destroyed himself. And I just made sure everyone saw exactly who he really was. I found a second phone in my girlfriend's car, and the truth destroyed everything we built together. Let me back up. I'm Jake. I'm 31. My girlfriend Sarah is 29. We've been together 3 years. We live in Portland together. We have a dog. We talk about getting married. Or at least, I thought we did. Sarah travels a lot for work. She's a consultant, always flying to client meetings. I never questioned it. She'd be gone 3 or 4 days a week, come home tired. We'd spend time together on weekends. It felt normal for her job. 2 months ago, I was borrowing her car because mine was in the shop. I was looking for her registration in the glove box and found a phone. A brand new iPhone, still in the plastic. I didn't open it at first. I just stared at it. Why would she need a second phone? I told myself not to be that guy, but I couldn't help it. I turned it on. The phone had messages, recent ones, from someone named Mom, and another contact that said Dad, and a bunch of group chats with names I didn't recognize. My hands were shaking when I opened the photos. There were pictures of Sarah at a beach, with a man and a woman. Everyone smiling. The man had his arm around her. The caption said family vacation, miss you guys. I sat in that car for 20 minutes, just staring at the screen. When Sarah got home that night, I didn't say anything. I waited until we were eating dinner. I put the phone on the table. What's this? She went white, like all the color just left her face. She didn't say anything for a long time. Sarah, what is this? Jake, I can explain. Then explain. She put her fork down. Her voice was quiet. I have another family. I've had them my whole life. My parents live in San Diego. My brother lives there too. What do you mean you have another family? You told me your parents died when you were 15. I know what I told you. So you lied. For 3 years you lied to me. Those work trips. Where are you actually going? San Diego. I go home. I see my family. Jake, I'm sorry. I couldn't tell you. I didn't know how. I couldn't even look at her. You didn't know how to tell me you have parents, that you have a brother, that you've been lying every single time you left this house. It's complicated. Then uncomplicated. Tell me everything. She took a breath. When I was 18, I had a fight with my parents. A bad one. About my boyfriend at the time. They said if I stayed with him, I couldn't come home. So I left. I moved away. I cut them off completely. I told everyone they were dead, because it was easier than explaining that I'd chosen to leave. And then what? You just missed them one day and started visiting? 5 years ago, my brother found me on Facebook. He wanted to fix things. My parents wanted to fix things. I was scared to tell you because by that point, I'd already lied about it. The harder it got. So I just kept going. I kept 2 lives separate. I stood up. Do your parents know about me? Yes. Do they know we live together? Yes. Do they know we talk about marriage? She didn't answer. They don't know, do they? Because you're still pretending to be someone else with them too. That's not fair. Not fair? Sarah, you've been living a double life. I have no idea who you actually are. I don't know if anything you've told me is real. Your job, your past, your friends here. How am I supposed to trust anything? I'm still the same person you fell in love with. No, you're not. The person I fell in love with doesn't exist. She's a story you made up. I left that night. Stayed at my brother's place. For the next week, Sarah called and texted constantly, apologizing, explaining, begging me to talk to her, but I couldn't. Every time I thought about it, I felt sick. I found out later that she'd never actually told her parents about me, not really. She'd hidden our relationship from them, the same way she'd hidden them from me. She was living 3 separate lives, and none of them included the real truth. I ended it. 3 years, gone. She moved out. I sold the dog we got together because I couldn't stand looking at it. Last I heard, she's back in San Diego, living with her parents full-time. I don't know if she's still lying to them. I don't know if she's still lying to anyone. I just know I can't be with someone who chooses deception over honesty, no matter how good the reasons sound.